Looks like you've got some people. All right. Well, it looks like we got some people joining. We'll give it a few minutes here for everyone to get checked in. So if you're getting logged in now, we'll give it a few minutes yet. And say show we'll give it till about 3 after for everyone to get hopped on. We'll roll in. See, some people are still popping in yet. So we were going to settle at 12, so we'll give it another minute or so yet. See if we get any last minute stragglers. Okay. Well, just a few more, John. One more minute yet. Well, we'll go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome to the Heartland Chapters webinar. It's on clearing the air, tackling the challenge of vape waste disposal. Shelley Fuller from Boulder County graciously agreed to be the presenter today for this. And if you've had the chance to catch Shelley's presentation a couple years ago at the Florida or the NAMA conference when it was in Florida, it was very informative. And so I know we all have a lot of concerns around vape waste. And so we wanted to get her on here today and kind of talk about their awesome program they have out there. So I just want to thank her for agreeing to do the presentation today. She'll go through her presentation and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Shelley.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Sorry, my voice is going, so hopefully we can make it through this presentation. But as Ken mentioned, I work for Boulder County in Colorado, and I've been with the county for almost 12 years now. And so this has been something that we've been working on for a few years. And so for me, how it all started, probably about 7 years ago, I started to see vape devices coming in to our facility, you know, like an e-cigarette here, or every once in a while someone would say like, hey, I cleaned this out of my kid's room. And so I was currently in Leadership Academy at the time. And one of my teammates was in the Boulder County Public Health Tobacco Education Prevention Partnership Group. And I had no idea that people like that existed because I'm in my own little has waste world. And so I would find myself asking her questions about vaping and e-cigarettes constantly. And so we decided to eventually collaborate because we know that vaping devices are a problem, right? This is a picture of a Denver rubbish truck on fire in the middle of the street. And so we've got the hazard of nicotine. I'll turn that off, sorry. Nicotine and batteries. Most consumers are just tossing these items in the trash or recycling bins. We've got fire hazards, obviously. We don't really have convenient disposal solutions, and it's pretty expensive to get rid of. And these devices are also really easy to conceal. They're marketing to youth, so they've got these, silly flavors like jelly juice around and cotton candy, and like this little blue raspberry ice is so tiny, and so kids are just, getting pretty addicted to these items. And then over the years, I've made some friends in the vaping disposal industry. So this is a picture of a teenager who bought a vape pen from a convenience store, and um, now it's exploded in his mouth. I'm so sorry about this. Um, and I just thought this was kind of an impactful picture of like how there's like human damage as well that we're starting to see, right? And so I just thought I'd share a little bit of our project timeline. So, like I mentioned, this started 7 years ago for me. And so the first thing that we did was try to create safe disposal and handling talking points for the public. So we went to vape shops and asked them what would be the most helpful for folks. And then in 2019, we started to connect with the local school districts to set up a process for confiscated devices. And then in 2020, we got feedback like, hey, it'd be super helpful if you made like a toolkit so that this could be copied around the country. And then in 2021, we decided to partner with local vape shops to collect devices from local residents. And then in 2023, we received grant funding from the state of Colorado Health Department. And so this is an innovative grant through the tobacco field to explore local policy options and design a vape waste disposal campaign. And so, starting from the beginning, we created that messaging for consumers. And so, the first thing we did was create a consumer rack card. And so, this kind of explained, like, hey, why we're doing this, right? So, nicotine was used as a pesticide and banned in 2014 by the EPA. It's also considered P75 acute hazardous waste. And so, we can only take 2.2 pounds of nicotine from businesses at a time. And so for us, that meant like dealing with schools, they could only collect 2.2 pounds of nicotine per month without exceeding their VSQG limits and having to be an LQG. And so we wanted to be proactive instead of reactive and kind of help them out. And then some of the other hazards were the lithium ion batteries. And then on the flip side of this card, we've got the health risks. And so we kind of talked about storage and handling as well, trying to keep it away from kids and pets. At the time, this was shortly after edibles were a big thing in Colorado. And so kids were accidentally eating like brownies, and like with the industry calling e-liquid juice, kids were drinking juice that was left on a table. And so we wanted to bring some awareness to folks around these devices. And now we've kind of changed our marketing. So we changed our logo. We have a new VapeAware logo. We created a mission to kind of help us steer the project. And so our mission is to support harm reduction and inspire environmental stewardship. And then we created a new version of the rack card because the devices just keep changing so quickly. And so this is our latest and greatest version of the rack card. And then we have come up with some flyers for events or creating disposal bins for, I think like we went to Front Range Community College last year to collect devices. All right, so now I'm going to talk about handling confiscated vapes in schools. So some of the feedback that I'm hearing is that like high school kids cannot go to the restroom during school hours without like seeing something like this, right? You see feet and then you see vapor or smoke coming out from a stall because they're just going to the bathroom or the restrooms in between classes and having to vape. So sometimes you'll see like 5 different set of feet in one stall vaping, and kids can't even use the restroom. So it's kind of heartbreaking. But for us, in order to get into the schools, it was really important to find the right partners. So for me, that lesson learned was getting the right people in the room to have this conversation and start something. So between public health, our hazardous materials team, and then getting folks from the local school district, which for us is Boulder Valley School District, we were able to get school nurses, communications folks. Back then, they had school resource officers, which are like local sheriff deputies or police department folks that are working in the schools, and having conversations with them about what would be the best way to address some of these confiscated devices that are coming in on a regular basis. And so, having conversations, we decided that it would be easiest to set up collection bins in each of the schools and the transportation depots. And so what we did were we created some bins. For me, I wanted to make sure that we had something that was clear. There's so many times where you have a container that's just put on the side and then it's out of sight, out of mind, and then you don't know how full it's getting because you can't really see it. So I wanted to have something clear so we could see how full the bin was getting, or if something was happening, you could see that. So we got these used battery collection bins, originally from New Pig, and now I've been able to find them on Granger. And then we have our hazardous waste labels. We also provide PPE, so like gloves, plastic bags, and then we created these custom stickers to put on the bin so they would know what number to call and when they should call so they don't exceed any of their limits. And so this is an example of one of our hazardous waste labels with Fairview High School on there, and it's got the proper shipping name. And then we also created a customized sticker that goes on the lid. And so these are just all the directions that we have, like, hey, anything that you get, if it's leaking, put it in a bag, make sure it's out of reach from student access, and then call when the line, when you hit that line. So this is an example of one of the bins in one of the schools where it doesn't have any access to students because it's in a filing cabinet. Um, and the reason was that we just didn't want kids stealing any of the devices. And then next we're placing, we've got the bag. So if something was leaking, they could put their leaking containers into a bag. And then this is the call for pickup sticker on the bin. If you, as you can see, it's pretty low. So at the time when we are setting this up, I had an intern who had a lot of friends who were vaping. And so she kept bringing in all her stuff and then we would weigh it. And this was where, this is how low the line is for 2.2 pounds. I think the tricky thing for us was that when you have single-use devices, I have no way of knowing how much nicotine is in that product. And so we're including the weight of a battery so that we don't get in trouble and exceed that limit. So I know we have less than 2.2 pounds of nicotine waste. I just don't know how to separate it when you've got nicotine and battery all in one device. And so once they hit that line, they'll call for a pickup. And then I just wanted to show an example of what we're seeing in some of our bins. And so in this bin, you can see we've got pods, we've got random devices, we've got nicotine pouches, we've got bottles of e-liquid. And then this little black bottle actually looks like it was supposed to originally have THC in it, but it just had rolling paper in it. So we didn't accept any THC waste. And I guess I should touch on that. So if there is any THC waste coming in from the schools, we ask them to dispose of that. We can't take any THC waste. We don't want to be glorified drug traffickers. And then eventually we made this toolkit. And so this is what we can give to schools. So there's like a one pager that just has like the disposal guide. And then this other document on the right is a more in-depth kind of toolkit for school administrators. All right, and everybody needs a champion. So all of you folks here today are probably the people like dealing with all the hazardous waste in the HHWs. This is a teacher that I met through working with vape waste, and conveniently he also lives in my neighborhood, so we get to connect pretty frequently. But he was recently in the New York Times, and he just won an award from the American Lung Association. And I've actually had this art piece on display in my facility, which is a great conversation starter. And so one of his students made this art piece and they call it intrinsic motivation. And so it's just kind of a nice way to use art to kind of start a conversation about vape waste disposal. And then also some of his students are doing cool things with their vapes and their art. And so I thought this was a pretty powerful message to have. and just thought it'd be nice to share with you folks. And then Kyle also has this bin in his classroom. And so he's hoping to help students turn an unhealthy habit into art. And so he used to just have like a little bucket, and then one of the students actually stole a bunch of the devices to use it. So now he has a more taped up, big, obnoxious bin for vape waste disposal. And then his students are turning it into art. And so this piece here on the right actually won a national competition. And so, yeah, kind of cool stuff that they're making with these vapes. All right. So, moving on to collecting vapes from consumers. And so, this is an example of like, this is just a cart of stuff that we got in from one of our, from somebody. And so what we're doing is we have vape, the same bins that we have at schools, we have them at some of our local vape shops. And so we've partnered with 5 vape shops in the county. I think we have like 15 to 20 vape shops out there, but right now we only have 5 vape shops that we've partnered with. But I kind of wanted to show the differences. Like this is just 3 different shops within our county, but everybody has different kinds of waste, right? This little dog, they tend to have the most waste. And so a lot of times when we're going through what they have, we're seeing almost 2 carts worth of stuff coming from their one shop. And so we pick up from them once a month. And the feedback that we were receiving from these vape shops is that, hey, we like being able to offer this service. You're taking it for free because it's coming from households. I guess I didn't spell that out. So because it's coming from consumers and not from vape shop waste, we're allowed to call it household hazardous waste. And so I clarified this with our state health department. And so schools, because the waste is confiscated, then it becomes school waste. But because this is a voluntary drop off and it's just consumers dropping off, then we can call it household hazardous waste. But the vape shops didn't have the capacity to drive it down to us. My staff didn't have the time to constantly go and pick up waste from them. So we decided to hire some companies that were already in the neighborhood doing their normal business, right? So the Happy Beetle was a local company. Ridwell is more of a nationwide company, but these folks are already out there picking up batteries, to-go containers, clothing, all these kinds of things from local businesses and from households. So we figured since they're already up in that neck of the woods, we'll just have them stop by um, these vape shops. And so the Happy Beetle doesn't quite reach our whole service area. And so they're just hitting some of the vape shops in one town. And then Ridwell can hit the other shops in another town. And so that's why we have 2 different vendors. And these are just all of the convenient drop-off locations that we have with all the different vape shops and HHW and our transfer stations. All right. So in 2022, we had a vape disposal survey just to find out more information about like people's behavior, how they currently dispose of products, and like if they know it's an environmental hazard. So we were pretty fortunate. We got 936 responses. And so it was really nice to see that 92.3% of the survey respondents believe that vape products contain hazardous waste. And that there are environmental impacts from this. So some of them, thought like toxic chemicals in the environment. Some of them were worried about the batteries, mercury pollution, or microplastics. Um, we also asked like about the style of vape product that they used. I would say like this was back in 2022. So nowadays I would say that there's way more disposables that we're seeing, but back then we had a lot more variety of what was the different styles that were being used. And then some of the vape methods we were asking about, like, nobody wants to ask if you're really throwing this stuff on the ground, but people do, and they were honest about it. A lot of the folks that took the survey took it to the vape shop. We also posted our flyers to take the survey in the vape shop, so it kind of makes sense that it worked out that way. There's a couple of folks that do come to our facility. A lot of them are putting it into the trash or regular recycling bins. And then a lot of the barriers for disposing of vapes is that they didn't know they were hazardous or the disposal facilities are too far from home. Hence us trying to make more convenient disposal sites. It takes a lot of time. Like it's super easy to just toss something into the rubbish. Um, and yeah, nobody really wants to spend that time to go do the right thing if it's not that convenient. All right, so we also asked about what our preferred vape drop-off disposal sites would be. Most folks said the vape shop. They also thought about farmers market or other community events, our hazardous materials facility, health departments, community sites, and then just some people just straight up still won't use it. So it's just kind of nice to see what people are thinking. And then, so basically, we used that survey information to kind of help guide us and want us to create more convenient disposal sites and then kind of change our messaging. So once we get all the vape products from schools or from really anybody, I go above and beyond, right? I decided that we should do an inventory. And this all started because probably when this program started 7 years ago, Juul was a big thing. And I felt like everybody was like, Juul this, Juul that. And I didn't feel like I was seeing that many Juuls to make it that big of a conversation. And so I was just curious and started to inventory everything that we got in so that if somebody asked, like, how many Juuls did you get? I could respond appropriately. But I also thought that if we ever got to the point of needing product stewardship or EPR, we would have that data to help guide us with local policy. I didn't have to be like, I think we got this many things. I know I can say I got this much stuff, right? So this is a photo of one of our employees dumping out one of the loads from the local vape shop and sorting everything. And so on our inventory form, you can see I've got, businesses, the dates they're dropping off, and on the top, we've got the names. So I could tell you we have 1,731 Escobars that came in last year. There's going to be a ton of products that just came in one time. Somebody just wanted to try it once. And then you can see there's going to be some products that are a lot more frequent flyers, like Escobars, things like that. And so this is where we have that data. This spreadsheet is ridiculous. It just you get keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling to the side. It's too much. But I have that data if anyone needed it for policy, right? And so just to kind of break things down in our vape inventory, so we had 120 drop-offs last year. Some of it just came from folks coming into the facility, but of those 120 drop-offs, we had 50 schools. 44 were the vape shop pickups from our resident collection in the vape shops. And then total, we received 7,706 devices, which was a total of 790 pounds. And so we also received 26 pounds of e-liquid. And so we're keeping in mind that we had schools and like 5 out of the 15 to 20 vape shops out there. So we're only hitting a fraction of the vape waste within just Boulder County. So I think we could do a lot more, but like I said, having those numbers can help prove that. And then this is a picture of one of our 5-gallon buckets. And so this is when I had like taken all of our vapes, done the inventory, and this is what it looked like when I was packing it. So we do like devices, nothing is touching, and then a layer of verm, and then another layer of devices until we fill that 5-gallon bucket. And I would say most of the buckets are going to weigh anywhere from 17 to 21 pounds when they're full. And then where do the vapes go from here? So we use Veolia as our hazardous waste vendor. And so the nicotine is incinerated. And so this would include any of the single-use devices where they have both nicotine and battery because they can't be separated. So all of that's getting incinerated. If we have devices where you can separate like a pod-based device or a mod, and we can just ship the lithium-ion battery separate, that's getting recycled down in Phoenix. All right. And so now we're moving on to our most recent work. And so this is the innovative grant work that we have. So we received $150,000 from the tobacco folks at the state health department. And so we kind of divvied that money up, and a portion of that is going to a media campaign. And so they recently did a survey and are working on some messaging for us. And so the basic concepts that we're talking about are that vapes are harmful to the environment and that we do have convenient disposal options here in Boulder County, so that people can dispose of their waste properly. We're seeing fires all over the state. I've seen them here just across the parking lot from where I work because we have a MRF, and so we just don't want to continue to have fires because of these vaping devices. And so hopefully this media campaign will kind of help us out. And then the other part of our grant is exploring local policy options. So You might have seen that we are working with the Product Stewardship Institute and working on exploring what the options could be. So they've given us a whole list of all the things that we could potentially do. These are just three of those options that we might consider. I'm not saying this is exactly what we're doing, but these were the three that we're kind of leaning to in the moment. And so one of those is producer responsibility, which would definitely help us reduce local government costs. So basically my budget, right? Last year I spent $5,000 on vape disposal. It would also increase collection convenience. So hopefully we would have more take back sites similar to the paint care program here in Colorado. They've definitely increased their collection sites. And then this would also increase safe product management and provide accountability. And so if we go that EPR route, I'd love to see if we can work with manufacturers to design the product differently, right? So that batteries can be separated from nicotine and that we could recycle a huge chunk of those vape devices because we would be recycling the batteries. Another option would be to consider consumer fees, which might deter purchases if fees increase, but there could be some equity issues with those addicted to nicotine. I know we recently had a stakeholder meeting, and some of the students said that if they don't have their vapes around, they'll go steal cigarettes or do something even worse than nicotine, just because they need that fix. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting comment. And then we might get some resistance from folks as well. And then another option was retail license fees. And so this would be a dedicated and consistent funding source, because we'd probably get annual fees from the retail licensing. But once again, it might increase vape products. And then we would also probably get some resistance from folks again. So things to explore and hopefully consider soon. While we've been working on this project, Representative Valdez kind of started a bill. And so he introduced the recycling of single-use electronic smoking devices. And basically, he wants to create a task force to review practices for collecting and recycling and disposal of single-use electronic smoking, so vapes, sorry, in Colorado. And so this is a picture of a couple of us testifying in one of their committee meetings. So that was a totally new experience for me, very stressful. And then something that just happened this week is that the Attorney General came out with a vaping prevention grant. And this is going to be for people like Kyle, right? Teachers who can use some of the money from the Juul settlement to focus on education, prevention, treatment, and support and combat youth vaping. And so there's quite a bit of money out there. So hopefully they can do some good things with that. And then EPA recently came out with their fact sheet about how consumers should take their vapes to the HHW program. And so I thought that was pretty timely and thought I would share it with you folks. We've got some Colorado representation here in the photos. So we've got my good buddy Petey Pope and Daryl Hillier from Mesa County in the middle. And then on the bottom, we've got Larimer County had a fire from a vape device. And so that's their picture down below. And then just to wrap up, some of the lessons learned for me is that the industry is constantly changing. Community take back is pretty tricky. Like we keep trying to do things, it doesn't always work. So we just keep adapting and doing whatever we think is the next best step. And then communication is key, right? Having a champion out there is super helpful, but also having good communication with vape shops to make sure that they know who is taking the devices and where they're going so they can explain it to their customers. Also, like mentioning, like we don't take THC devices. And so having good communication with consumers, vape shops, and all of our partners is really important. And then for us, next steps is to kind of expand that convenient disposal options. Like I mentioned, we're only in 5 vape shops, but we'd love to get to like 10 this year. And then we're working on that community media campaign and then exploring local policy options, hoping we can come to a decision on which avenue we want to roll with, and then kind of start working on that next year. And then kind of coming up with a sustainability plan. Like everything costs money, right? So spending $5,000 last year on vapes, but if we do all this convenient disposal and get more locations out there, we also need to have that funding. And so how do we sustain this vape program if we continue to expand it? So hopefully we can navigate all of that. And I guess it's time for questions.
Sorry, was my screen changed on me there. So, well, thank you, Shelley, for going through the presentation. If anybody has any questions, you can start putting them in the Q&A, and then we'll read those off and do our best to answer those for you. Okay, we're getting some questions coming in. So first one here is, what is the average cost per year for the schools?
So last year, actually for the last 3 years, we were able to get sustainability funding from the county. And so we weren't charging the schools. We were letting them drop off for free.
Okay. Do you know what it was, like how much it cost you, I guess, then?
I guess since about a third, maybe like a little less than 2 grand probably for the schools, if I
Okay.
had to guess.
Yep. All right, we got another question here. Do you know of anybody else working directly with vape shops? Like
Not that
either,
I know of.
okay. All right. Do any schools have a large quantity of vapes accumulated already that push them over to LQG status?
They very well could have, but if they did, they probably didn't consider it waste in that volume
Okay,
because we were trying not to exceed that 2.2 limit. So we told everybody we could only take 2.2 pounds per month.
okay, okay. Um, let's see, we got another one here. Our hazardous waste vendor has said all devices would need to be individually bagged if we start a program. Your program only bags leaking devices, correct?
True. So our vendor hasn't required us to bag every device. And then for us, because I'm going above and beyond and doing that inventory, it's actually hard to see what the devices are if they're in a bag. And so a lot of times people will have, like, especially schools will bag every single device and then we take them out because I'm doing that inventory. But for you, like if you set up your own collection bin, you could have all of your schools individually bag things and then make less work for yourself. So it's whatever your vendor wants and how you want to work with them. But I think you could still make it work that way. I just do it my way because I'm just doing extra work for no reason.
Do you want to repeat your vendor, Shelley, for everybody? Just
Oh, I'm using Veolia.
okay. Next question here. So first of all, thank you. And then it says, do you store collected devices in a firebox or DDR drum prior to sorting?
We haven't been, but I do have cell block that we bought for folks so that if they need it, they can use it in case something ever happened. So right now we're just using those battery collection bins that you can find on New Pig or Granger, but not in a specific firebox or DDR drum yet.
Okay. All right, the next one here says, great presentation. Do you have any outreach or do you do any outreach to those businesses about their responsibility to manage their waste? And then how do you know they aren't using consumer bins for their own waste? Using the consumer bins for their own waste?
Yeah, so we have told them that they can use our facility for drop off, and a couple of them have come by over the years, but it's not very often. And so um, I have stressed to them that we need to make sure that we're not taking any of their vape shop waste in the consumer bins because they would kill this program, right? And so if they want to say like they're doing the green thing and recycling all of their devices, but we end up catching all of their vape shop waste coming in, then it would be their fault and they would have to explain it to their consumers. So there was one time where it looked like a vape shop had thrown in just like product in the boxes into the bin. And we took all those boxes back and took it back to the vape shop and said, you can't put your stuff in here. Like you need to dispose of it properly as a VSQG, and gave them a card for disposal. So hopefully everyone is just doing the right thing and only putting in their consumer waste.
All right, this one is just, are those with new battery laws planning to have vape shops collect batteries also? Um, I'm not aware of that in our state, or,
Yeah, I don't know yet. We'll have to get back to you, Jennifer.
yep. And then has there been any pushback from household HHW collection centers on taking, sorting, and managing vape waste? So, I guess any other ones in Colorado or,
I don't know actually. I think others have, contacted me to ask like, hey, how do we start this program, right? But I don't know if there's been any pushback.
all right. Do you know how much it costs to dispose of the 2.2 pounds of vapes in a 5-gallon bucket?
So if a vape shop came in and wanted to dispose of their vape devices with me, or
Mhm.
like this year I don't have funding from school, so they'll have to finally pay for the first time in a couple years. We're gonna charge them $21.05 a pound. So probably about 45 bucks if I'm rounding.
Okay. All right. Next one here, vape drop-offs in shops. Uh, kind of same question. How do you know it was the customers and not the shop? And just by quantity, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Well, and you can tell they're all like pretty much empty and used. I think the
Yep,
ones that we got in those boxes were full. And like I said, still in the box. And so that was kind of an easy one to go back and say, like, hey, you take that back.
yep. It says, do you provide small plastic bags with the bins?
I do.
All right. Um, and as you said, you do not take THC material. How is that vape related waste being managed? Do you-
It's all going in the trash right now because there's no good option for that.
Yep. Um, did schools with over 2.2 pounds have to do an episodic event?
Yes. So we help them reach out to the health department to get an EPA number.
Mhm. You got just a nice comment here, Shelley, about being the coolest person in the land.
Thank you. Coolest voice too, right?
It held out, so. um, how do you mitigate fire concerns of the bins in stores and schools?
Um, so we've asked folks to come in at least once a year, if not twice a year. And so even if they haven't hit that 2.2 mark, we're asking folks to bring it in so it's not sitting there for years on end.
Yep,
Um, and just having folks pay attention. That was the main reason I wanted clear bins. And so you could see those bins and easily see if something's happening in the bin. And I get it, if it's in the bottom of a fire cabinet, that's not super easy to see, but at least I think we've done the best that we can with what we have, right? Um, Having clear bins so you can see, having communication often. So we ask the school districts to communicate with folks at the beginning of every school year to remind them that this is the process for confiscated devices. Let them know that there is an existing program. Have them find their bin in case there's been some turnover over the summer, and then having the environmental services folks make sure they go and collect those annually at least.
um, did the transport companies transporting vape waste from the vape shops have to be registered as has waste haulers?
No, because it's household hazardous waste technically.
Yep. All right, and then what is the estimated cost for the supplies that you use? So the bins, plastic bags, stickers.
Mm, I'd say I probably have spent like $2,000 over the years between bins and stickers. Um, I was using some of the surplus bags that we had from our thousands of call to recycle boxes over the years. so I haven't actually bought a plastic bag in ages. But for bins and stickers, I'd say we would probably spend about $2,000 over the years.
Awesome, awesome. So not terribly expensive.
No,
And then last one is just a comment. Terrific presentation as always. Got another one that popped in here. So is Jennifer wants to know if anybody is working with EPA on their school vape fact sheet. She has 2 collection programs. They operate differently from Shelley's. She's concerned since they're not contacting them or Shelley to find out what's actually happening and safety issues. So can they, I guess the question is, can they reach out? Probably, if they have
Yeah.
questions.
or I guess she's asking the whole group, right? Out
Yeah.
of the 27 people here, are any of you working with the
Yes.
EPA on a fact sheet? I don't know. Can you raise your hand?
They can, but they could put it in the Q&A, just answer yes or no. Yep. And if you are, or if you have something you want to share, you can always email us at communications@nama.org, and then we'll get that shared out via the groups and stuff. Or you can just email it directly to forums@nama.org, and that'll go to the Google group forum. If you're working on something like that, we can kind of keep that discussion rolling there. And this webinar is being recorded, so it will eventually be up on our website. And so on the member only area, so you'll be able to review it on there too also. So seeing as we got a couple more now. Yes, we'll be sharing the presentation. So once the recording is kind of encoded, we'll work with IMI to get it up on the member area of the website. And then the next one here, can people dispose of vape waste at police station take back kiosks?
That you'd have to take it up with the police station. I tried to actually do some community take back at fire stations, and the fire marshal just got very disgruntled. And acted like I was like the craziest person on earth for trying to do that. So I don't think you would likely do that.
No. And that's we're running into a similar challenge right now with our battery take back program. There was concerns about
and I was trying to do just battery collection at fire stations. And he didn't like that at all. So I don't think the police stations would either, but you can ask.
Got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Might as well go where it's trained. You have trained people how to handle them. So
is somebody raising their hand? Oh, Jennifer is.
Oh, is there a way for us to, let's see if I bring up participants here, if I can unmute her or not.
How do you add her to the webinar?
Oh.
You want to allow her to talk?
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Oh, hey,
There
thanks.
you go.
See, I really have a major problem with the collection events, the DEA events taking vapes. There's nobody in Minnesota that's doing that anymore. And the reason is because they're really concerned about getting whole vapes in and in their collection boxes. I have one county that sorts all of that waste that comes in just to check for batteries because we got really concerned about it. So I didn't think it was ever a good idea. And I would discourage it because if we have some of our medication collection boxes, if something starts on fire, that'll be the end of it. So I would discourage that. I think it's really important. So that's why I wanted to say that. Thank you for allowing me to chat.
No problem.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for trooping through this, Shelley. I'm going to make everybody for my chapter watch this if they haven't. It's excellent.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it is.
It's cool.
All right. Well, it looks like we have exhausted all the questions. So I just want to thank everyone for joining today. And as a reminder, like I said, we'll get this posted on the member section of the website. If you do have any questions or anything additional you'd like answered, you can always shoot it over to forum@nama.org, and that'll go into that Google Groups chat, you know, and all members are part of that, so they can join in on the discussion there also. So, yeah, it's again, yeah, just thank you, everybody, and thank you to Shelley for agreeing to do this today. So,
Thanks for being here. And if, I guess, anyone wanted just the slide deck and not the whole recording, just reach out to me and I can just email you the PDF of the slides. The presentation's ginormous because I have the coolest pictures. I'm very proud of them. But yeah, we weren't able to, I can't send you the presentation because it's too big, but I can send you the PDF of the slide deck if that helps you out.
okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
All right.
Bye.